Friday, March 27th, 12:58 p.m. What is up, Trader Nation? Back on the markets. So, started off my day like everybody else doesn't want to, hearing Joe Kernan bitch. So, we have our talking points and trading discussion. As always, if you're watching this video, I think I got the audio figured out. I have to talk into the right side. If I talk into like this side, it sounds really like echoey or hollow or something. But regardless, overall downward pressure on the market. The Iran war still kind of going along, but still the predominant sentiment of, again, causation, correlation, certainly in that conversation. Again, I point stuff out that might seem obvious, but it's just like we have to talk through everything, and a lot of people just gloss over stuff that I do not consider obvious in any way, shape, or form, specifically meaning causation of this price action compares to this sociological event, political event, so on and so forth. But regardless, I think this is a good causation to say, the Iran war is what is causing this overall downward pressure. And so, to me, like we were saying yesterday after the market or, afternoon, right on this brink where it's like the S&P, right, that's the S&P YI, the income fund. But if we look at the S&P, again, 63.80 in the 663 to 667 when it was just like, again, sentiment felt blah. And then we're sitting here with news cycles like, what's Jensen Huang's dogs doing today? I'm like, I don't know. But overall, nope, we don't want to see we can't see the judge here. I don't know if that's going to get me banned on YouTube. It shouldn't, but we will see. I might just edit it out. It doesn't matter. But regardless, overall downward pressure, I've definitely been nibbling. It could be, what I see is that in the overall stimulus, both to the upside and to the downside, meaning appreciation for oil and depreciation for the overall market conditions, I see as very transient. With this overall discussion, I feel like, again, everyone's kind of used to Trump saying one thing, Iran saying the other thing, this thing, that thing, and it's just like, I feel like the sentiment's played out on both sides. I mean, obviously, still a terrible situation. We've covered that politically as much as I want to say for now. We do have another talking point. It seems that Trump's great presidency deserves to have his writing on the currency. So we'll get to that here in a second. But nothing new in terms of the conversation of the behavior of a commander-in-chief or the overall direction of the administration, or lack thereof. But regardless, I woke up today to Joe Kernan just bitching and complaining and echoing the most basic, generic Republican sentiments. Because is he a baby boomer? Yes. Does he know how to behave? No. So what does he do? He roots for his team. And it's atrocious and disgusting, and the fact that Joe Kernan is employed is embarrassing to Comcast and embarrassing to CNBC. You have plenty of decent guests and hosts up there all of the time. Joe Kernan is not one of them. And he is a criminal, along with your entire staff. So I'd vote to fire him immediately. But I'm legitimately suing all of you guys. So it's just fun to see you guys get on there with your nice, again, you're always everyone, you're on TV. Everyone's makeup's all done. You guys have your nice suits and your nice dresses on. And I'm over here with pit-stained sweatshirts from like 10 years ago. But it's Friday. I mean, probably about time for another vacation. Congress needs to go on recess. More playtime for all of the hardworking people. It's the weekend. Haha, live for Friday. Thirsty Thursday. Shout out Governor DeWine. I recently learned that Governor DeWine is, a proprietor. He makes money off of the term Thirsty Thursday. All of that great freedom we have to choose, alcohol or cannabis as our recreation. Right, Governor DeWine? Oh, that's right. You just signed another bill restricting freedom. Yeah. America. I love it. I'm laughing. I'm just not joking. And again, I make these videos like it just drags me down. Not even like mentally, but like I don't want my entire content to be a legal citation. But regardless, the overall downward pressure would not surprise me. Again, just looking at the S&P itself, again, it's not capitulation. It's definitely not capitulation. I see the overall stimulation, again, for the appreciation of oil or oil-related, refinery-related securities or products as transient, and then I see the overall downward pressure as transient. So, same type of structures we had yesterday, just I've added to a little of the positions. And again, we're making a trading vlog, so trade, pussy. But again, I don't have constitutional rights, and so we're definitely conservative in our money management over here. But regardless, nothing super stock specific in terms of anything exciting or new. but the ones we've added, or just talking about like the overall construction of my portfolio. Again, I do not have constitutional rights. That is the number one predominant thing. I do not have access to the labor market. I cannot get a job. I cannot monetize my property. I sit here and say, when is the IRS going to try to extort me again? And that's not in any way a joke. I have no tax liability. I do not have constitutional rights. And I just kind of say, what the fuck all day and then try to do stuff. But this is not capitulation. It's definitely at a point where you get some sort of, again, I don't know what a resolution looks like with the Iran conflict. Trump's going to tweet out anything that looks good for him at any point. It looks good for him. Iran's going to say whatever looks good for them. Like, you don't like close the Strait of Hormuz. You have some sort of assuredness that that guy on the bank over there, that brown guy, is not going to start shooting you. Right? And so it's just like, what does opening and closing the Strait of Hormuz really mean? Nothing. It just means, are we at a place where whoever's the commander-in-chief or the head insurgency apparatus in Iran, hey, do you have actual command? And two, are you just going to like shoot at the ships or not shoot at the ships? We had this great big present for Trump of 10 tankers. So it's like, you fuck up the oil production for everybody, and then Iran gives you a gift that you have to buy. So you benefited Iran's economy or something. Again, there's no direction. It's an absolute abomination. And so what a resolution to the Iranian war looks like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know what that looks like. But in terms of the sentiment reaction, price action on my screen right now, certainly could see capitulation. This is not capitulation. I see the overall stimulus of both, the war's going to go forever, or, we're going to finish today. It's just like all of it, like everyone's just like, okay, I'm done. Whatever it is what it is, right? It's almost like that's the form of all solutions. Man, I wish I knew it was somebody who proved that. But anyway, point being is I've added to all of the positions that I have, and for the construction, right, for the fading of the oil pressure, like I said, I reshorted CF yesterday. I added smallly, not bigly, because I don't do bigly deals like Donald. Except I did negotiate the most important truce in history. That's not public yet, because obviously I'm not even real. I'm just an imaginary creature. But my play for the depreciation, which I expect to happen as a just dying down, or just, we're tired of this. I see this when we're looking at this again, processing. It's a company that's established. Short-term stimulus, immediate-term stimulus, does have a dividend. Our position size is small enough where, again, a 50-cent dividend is actually, like a consideration, maybe more than like a 12-cent, which is what we had for American Eagles consideration. But the dividend date here is on not till like May 10th, and so we still have a whole month. We'll reassess, but I don't see, again, this is not a strong move in any universe, right? Joe T brought this up on my radar, or right around 100, I think is when he bought it. But like right here, everything above 100 is just like short-term stimulus. And then at 100, it's not even like above its normal trading range. And so to me, this is like a guaranteed short-term, whenever this resolution happens, and whether that's a ceasefire that actually means something, or just people getting the market just like, okay, we've heard enough Iran headlines where it doesn't really move shit. It's kind of like, this is what I'm playing to fade the whatever the resolution looks like to this interaction, this conflict, this war. I'm doing the Jemmy Joby trade. Joby, I mean, again, it's like a luxury transportation sector, but it's in Abu Dhabi. It's in the United Arab Emirates. And so I haven't really seen anything specific to this stock, which I thought this would see a bigger depreciation. But ladies, look at that, 75 shares, under $9. I'm pretty sure that gives me 14 million private helicopter rides. But regardless, I see kind of like a snapback. Again, without further capitulation, this is a position I do want to manage long. Again, we're here to trade, right? So let's trade something. And so trying to get some long positions. But then when we're talking about like Netflix, again, we got stopped out of that. That would have been a short-term good little buy, for a $4 per share gain, $3 to $4 share gain. But if I'm looking to long things, even with a decent portfolio size, I'd still just, these smaller things are much more advantageous, because it's like, as somebody who thinks, again, the S&P 500 is the best store of value / growth potential. In this liquid environment, you have a bank account, you're already exposed to money management. And so I don't see the S&P 500 as a great investment, as opposed to, again, when you're saying, where do I maximize the use of this given dollar? I have $1, I can put it anywhere I want. What does the most good? What the S&P does to me is gives you growth exposure, but is also as stable as possible in terms of having growth potential and being moderately to, I would say, higher level of stability. But I don't see it as like a good, like again, because if you bought, when we were doing this, when we started this kind of thing back in October or September, again, more of the daily kind of updates, right, you'd be down. I mean, you'd be down rather substantially. And then even if you bought the absolute low right here, and then you play again last year to pretty much a year, right? So you're looking at ballparking, let's say 7 to 5. So let's say you made 25% or something. And that's if you like maximized it. But I don't see, again, right, 100% is 100%, 10% is 10%. For this thing to move 100% or 10% is not like the conviction you want to. So when you're maximizing the value of your dollar bills, you're looking for that extension where you say, I have conviction that this thing is going to go up or down. The overall having a big chunk of the S&P 500 to me is something that's advantageous or desirable, or any index fund that you're comfortable with. Is because you already live in a liquid environment. You already have a bank account. So that's already money management. That's already keeping this dollar bill or this store. I don't want to use the word store of value, but this representation of value. That's what currency is. Again, you don't buy currency. Heard somebody else say something like not Sarah Eisen, we referenced her before. She was saying like, you buy money, you don't buy money. But somebody else said something similar to that, but like the analysis or the sentiment was decent, and I didn't write it down. But regardless, the S&P 500, again, this is where, again, if you're saying, I'm going to go long something, I'm going to long the market, I think this is a buying opportunity, this is when you find your high conviction stocks. And at any time, and that's any time you actually want to make money, in terms of like, hey man, maybe you sit here all day and look at your terminal, maybe you're, whatever level of investor you're at, to really make money in the market, those are your high conviction plays. And then you just, put a bigger position size. But the overall advantage to me for the S&P 500 is not for the total return. It's because you have to put your money somewhere, and it's infinitely better than like a high yield savings account. Again, there's no depreciation value, but then you have inflation, which is depreciation, and so it's this balancing act. But that's what I wanted to say there in terms of a buying opportunity, assuming your prerogative or your method of operation or what you're going to do today in the market is buy things. If you're trying to go for total return, this is when you buy high conviction stuff. Because again, the dollar cost for managing an overall index position, to me, it would just be dollar cost averaging, and that's what I'm doing with the income funds. Because again, the reason I have these positions is because, again, I don't have constitutional rights. And so trying to get my income stabilized as much as possible. So I've been nibbling in here. But that is what SPYI and QQQI, those ads pretty much are the same each time. I just think that's just what I'm doing. But this is what I'm playing for the overall, again, just because these are index funds, I don't really have like a position in the S&P 500. But again, that's because I don't have constitutional rights. I'm not somebody with X amount of net worth and a job where it's like you can meaningfully build wealth. And then again, if I get published or acknowledged to any extent, the concept of money is beyond in my rearview mirror. It already is. It's just like I don't have constitutional rights. But point being is I don't have a position in the S&P 500, nor will I ever take one because of my very unique life situation. But if you're developing a career and you're going to be working for 20 years, dollar cost averaging into the index funds is a pretty reasonable approach. Super bland, super generic, but that's why. It's because a lot of people have sat here and said, what do I do with my money? And it's like, that's the thing that makes sense. Because again, the index funds to me capture the overall momentum growth of a given nation state. Given section of the market, but at this point, right, we're trading, this is the United States stock market. In the future, I'd imagine, again, you're just going to have liquidity exchanges of some sort. But in the day-to-day life, nation states aren't going anywhere. Economically, they're already gone. I mean, like, you have huge international corporations. It's not like they're, you have to conduct your business with respect to the laws of the local area, but the money, right, the overall money figure currency is currency, and it's outside of one nation state. But that is what I am doing, is adding, kind of nibbling into here, and I do expect to get a good. These depreciations don't scare me that much, because again, when I assess this, right, these are pretty new, but the constructions is just like, it's not these weekly payouts. But when I look at here, and I'll just say $50 here, the QQQI, right? Since its inception, everything that's below $50 to me seems to be some sort of retracement, not capitulation, but like depreciation, where it's like, this is kind of like a buying opportunity. And so I do expect to see some, get back to even, or like I don't expect these to go down substantially, but to kind of like, again, whenever this reversal is, which science team, right, this momentum is reversing. It's not inversing, right? But I expect this to be relatively stable. And from an income fund, that's what I want. Like, if it appreciates, awesome, fantastic. 1%, 5%, sweet. But am I getting a dividend cut every month? Yeah, and that's what I want. And to have that underlying capital remotely stable, that's a thumbs up from me. And so nibbling at here, again, 6 months into these, and these been around for 2 years, 3 years, which is not long, but it's an income fund based on covered calls and some other kind of strategies. But to me, I don't see a substantial depreciation of capital. It's going to reflect the underlying S&P 500, which again, for reasons we've discussed previously, I expect it to continue to go up indefinitely, not forever, but it captures the overall momentum of the whole kind of sector or section of the market. And so the index funds, those are long, obviously. The Joby and Gemmy, those are long. Pop on over to Gemmy. Again, this will get a pop. This also has depreciation from just the overall crypto environment, which we're at this point where it's like crypto hasn't been in the headlines much at all. So kind of playing crypto or just a pop, because remember, this is also an IPO. And we have SpaceX IPO coming up as a talking point here in a second. And so for whatever reason, the overall dynamic of IPOs, they seem to, again, have an initial pop on like literally the first day, the first trading session. And every single one I've seen, I even remember like Facebook. I remember I was in high school, I was talking to Matt Young just about stocks and whatever. And Facebook had like depreciated from like, I think it was like $34 to like $17. And it was after its IPO. And so like a 6-month depreciation period of IPOs is something I've definitely seen. Not a high conviction trade in any way. But I actually do see Gemmy beaten down as like both just an IPO, the pressure of the crypto markets, and then Zuckerberg hasn't stolen this from the Winklevosses yet, which historically that should kick up sometime. But let's scoop a couple more, and because again, like you can average down and get some position like 5 shares, right? I'm just throwing $20 in here, which is a genuine buy. Like I actually want to again document and demonstrate managing a position that you're underwater in. Again, super small position. I was sloppy at managing it, just bought the IPO and it's like, let's just let it sit here. Should never do that. And that's the one position in this portfolio that I'm not super excited with. The other little ones that you've seen, like I said, those are just remnants from profitable trades. But so this will again, the whole market will have a little appreciation to whatever the resolution looks like. Assuming there's some sort of, again, I don't know what it would mean, but some sort of announcement within the next month or two. And if it's past that, to me, it's just going to drag on long enough where people just won't care at all. So point being is I do think there will be a rebound. This is not capitulation, as I've said like 10 times in this episode, but I do think there'll be like a noticeable pop back up of 5 to 10% rip on these things pretty quick once whatever resolution kind of gets talked about. So CF to the downside for once there's resolution, this for the long side for the overall pressure and the crypto pressure, Joby, overall market pressure, fund stock, and again, I do think there's like geographic relevance. It's not really reflected in the price action, but I do think this will rip back to like the 9-10 area pretty easily. With any sort of, again, attempt at saying this thing has resolved with any sort of meaning behind it. So we just got filled on our Gemmy Classic, and it's the stalwart of the portfolio, SGov. Yeah, that shit's still going up. And so again, that's my only income. It's not net income. I have, again, the amount of income potential and property loss that I have suffered is truly, it's an anomaly, just like my ability to process language. SanDisk is pretty sideways. Again, nothing super specific, just talking about the overall portfolio construction and why. Today, like I said, Netflix would have been a good trade. It's just you have to take these once the dollar bill size or the $90 a share as opposed to $5, right? You need to expose more capital, and so I like just like the smaller price things, and I think there's enough opportunity into the market where again I always like the Russell even as an index. Again, I like the S&P better than the Russell as an index. But then any real big trade I want to have comes from conviction of a single stock or a sector, really. It doesn't matter. Again, it changes. I talk about it each video, just like everybody else. This an economic discussion. It's just like I said, it's not centralized. You react to everything that happens in the day. And so those are my plays for the overall. Again, like not even in American Eagle, blah blah blah. The DFTX and the ATAI, no change. I don't really see any. I don't see anything of the like current market environment affecting the price action of these at all. And so anything that's stock specific down for these, I add a little bit. This one, ATAI, being a lot lower priced, but again, this sector will trade. And the thought here is again just hopefully to have positions in companies that are still solvent, that are still around. I mean, they should be. I mean, even with like the direction of RFK, this quote-unquote alternative medicine disruption to the pharmaceutical sector is immediate and huge once policy makes any sense to science. And policy will make sense to science once people that enforce the law literally respect the law. That is it. And that's just, I don't expect to see that in my lifetime. And that is in no way a joke. But that is what I am doing. Again, just structuring my overall exposure to benefit as to what I see as short-term transient disruption and this digestion of what this Iran conflict, whether there's a definitive resolution or not, people just getting, okay, this is what it is. I see that within like the next month or two. And so SanDisk is this SanDisk is the highest conviction trade I have. But it's again huge price, $600 a share. And it could catch momentum. I really think it has played out over here. Like I think it's topped out. But again, not enough for me. Highest conviction of anything we've talked about or anything that I really see. But again, I'm on the sidelines. I got my treasury bonds and a whole lot of legal complaints. But we did the whole construction, just talking you through about this transient, what I see as short-term relief. This one could go on a little longer, and so again, this could go into the summer, into the fall, but I like the position sizing here, so we have some things to make some money on, hopefully immediately, but, within the next month, but trades to follow through the next several months. Just trying to, again, talk over stuff. After Joe Kernan was done bitching for a while, and he said, again, Joe Kernan's specific comment was, this one has a point. The last one was self-inflicted in relation to the oil prices, which again, fire Joe Kernan, get that fat fuck the way, because it's not valuable to any of your viewers. If any of your viewers like Joe Kernan, he's just a baby boomer reflecting the most generic, bland bullshit Republican sentiment that exists. And it's just so off-putting every single time as a viewer. As somebody says, I don't want to hear somebody bitch that's a 60-year-old bitch that just whines and complains and says, well, the blue team did this, the red team's better, ha, ha, ha. And it is so apparent in his behavior that if you say anything that is just sentiment negative towards Republicans, well, the Democrats did this. And then I see that a lot with Sarah Eisen. Well, the Democrats did this. And as an actual fucking adult, right, as an actual grown-up, when I see other people saying, nah, well, he had this, you all go to timeout. And that timeout is fucking jail. And it makes me livid because these are the people, this behavior that restricts my ability to have a family. Sarah Eisen, why does your ability to have a family matter more than mine? Joe Kernan, why does your ability to have a family matter more than mine? And that behavior that I am criticizing is the exact reason I don't. But you guys have jobs, careers. Yep, it's Friday. You're going to go log off. You're going to have health insurance still on Saturday, and you're still going to be able to buy luxury goods. And I have never been be able to go into a grocery store and buy food, ever. And if I wanted to go hunt food, I have to go pay Governor DeWine for a hunting license. Oh, and then Brad might be around a firearm. Holy shit, that would be scary stuff. Yeah. Yeah, when I left college, and again, doing anything illegal would be so illegal. I never did any of that. Holy shit. But it just, again, we're in a joke of a fucking environment. I'm demonstrably the most mature person in all of fucking intelligence agencies. And I can't go like, but again, point being is, it's like I can't get food. Like, there's no natural way for me to get food without, paying the state or paying the grocery store, paying taxes. And it's all extortion, and it's all directly illegal. But nobody cares. And then I get online, and I wake up every day trying to outwork all of you lazy pieces of shit. And then Joe Kernan just bitching about nothing. Oh, let me take a sip of my tea, because I'm a scholar. I'm a scholar. Look at me. Yeah. And that's legalized cannabis yesterday. It's just a mug. But regardless, so he was Joe Kernan's bitching. That's not surprising. Dan Nathan also expressed some bullshit yesterday. He said, "I'm out of all of Facebook. I have 2 college kids who just doom scroll." Again, basically echoing the sentiment of saying, Meta should be responsible for my kids' shitty fucking behavior. And I actually did see Jim Cramer say this morning that he was, the sentiment that I said yesterday, he was echoing the same shit, which is true. It's just, we're suing Facebook because our kid is a kid. And right, they're going to socialize. What everyone else is doing, they are going to do. Peer pressure is real. People socialize. And so the consumption of information off cell phones is not bad. To me, that's even in science class, I just hear my old teacher saying, well, I had to calculate the boiling points off of these tables. Too bad. That's not how technology and progress works. And so the overall consumption of information off technology is not bad in any way. You don't need to physically sit down and read books all of the time. And I sit down and do read the actual physical copies because I like to, again, these are pieces of property, right? But if you're engaged, like if you're listening to an audiobook or if you're reading a book, if you're engaging and thinking about the material, that is what matters. And so you get a lot of this archaic, we're not doing it my way sentiment. And we've talked about that specifically to money. He has something that I don't have. This guy made this insider trade. Again, insider trades directly fraud immediately. Somebody gets some periphery. You can't sequester information. This oil trade, the S&P, the $1 billion thing we just talked about. It's like if you waste money, you still waste money, even if it's in a context of privilege. And so seeing Dan Nathan talk about, again, Facebook should have no liability for kids' behavior. And again, like I've used Facebook Marketplace like in the past. Again, I haven't been on Instagram. I upload on videos on YouTube all of the time, clearly, and I watch YouTube all the time, clearly, and I scroll Reddit for talking points. But even Reddit, man, like the sentiment of just the victim mentality, the beaten down social justice warrior, that shit is just exhausting. But it is a really good natural flow of just like different talking points of a variety of different stuff. And so seeing that sentiment from Dan Nathan wasn't encouraging, or again, reflecting of like correct understanding of what's going on. And then I have another thing from Sarah Eisen. She said, but again, the same type of, if you express from specifically Joe Kernan and Sarah Eisen, and I'm assuming most of the people up there are like Republican leaning, but again, as a viewer, when I'm sitting here with zero politics offending me, and I'm just trying to like see your overall maturity and understanding of finance. It's like, it's an overall, again, when you sit there and say, look at that guy, he's doing that too. And in a world where everyone is hypocritical, like everybody, everyone's just pointing at everybody else. I'm just in a fucking sandbox and kids are just throwing sand on each other and everyone's bitching about everybody else. But then when you see that as an employer, if I was somebody saying, hey, go talk about finance, you wouldn't be offending me. You'd just be demonstrating immaturity. Like, this isn't a person that's mature enough to talk about finance, not because of the political siding, because it's not a meaningful economic discussion. And it's the point of what you guys are doing on CNBC. And so just both Joe Kernan and Sarah Eisen, I get a lot of just like, well, the blue team did that and it was worse. Well, Senator Warren, she's on the liberal team. She wears the blue jacket and we don't like the blue jackets. But when in Columbus, we like the Blue Jackets. We're the fourth line. If you know the fourth line. Oh, great. But it's just, again, it's so off-putting every single time. And again, I'm suing you guys. I'm pressing criminal charges for fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy. Clean up your fucking act. You're already going to prison. You just have not faced consequences for your shit fucking actions before. And you're surrounded by a bunch of gang members that called law enforcement or intelligence officers or who the fuck ever, and all of science and all of analysis is still sitting on the internet. Becky Quick, your daughter, who's still suffering from genetic unfortunate realities, she's not receiving the most beneficial care that she can because science is fraudulent, the entirety of it, and you are facilitating that. Are you a grown woman, Becky? Can you take responsibility for your own actions? Open your mouth, bitch, and tell the truth. Oh, I'll wait. Oh, that's right, you can't. And so that, again, demonstrating this immaturity, it doesn't matter what subject you're talking about, what section of life you're talking about. You are immature, insecure, hypocritical cowards. It's the easiest revolution ever. It very literally is. And the first person that allows me to change my quality of life, allows me to eat properly, sleep properly, and work on an ongoing, continued basis, I don't even need income, gets amnesty, truly. Any country, any state ahead, anything. North Korea could give me a quality of life and they would be free to go. But that is what we are doing on the markets, playing again, just positioning around overall short-term, meaning a month to 2 month resolution of what I see as weak stimulus around this Iran-Trump conflict stuff going on. And so those were our sentiment responses to our proctors of host on CNBC. But Trump is putting his name on this currency for the 250th year anniversary, which I did bring up because, again, the 1780, I wanted to, quick little history lesson. Because I would always, again, to me, when the United States was established, shout out to bensguide.gpo.gov. But this New Hampshire ratification means, like, this is when the Constitution becomes, like, legal or becomes, like, the edifice, the centralized, this thing is now valid. And so I think the New Hampshire ratification in June 21st, 1788 is when the what is referenced as the United States has, there's all of science again. But when you say what is the United States, it is the ratification of the Constitution. But regardless, again, we're having this 250-year celebration of the Declaration of Independence, which is a very literally declaring independence, but it's not solidifying what the United States is legally as an entity. I don't want to say I am educated around idiots. But so we're celebrating 250 years of declared independence. That's what's going on. And so Trump is going to put his name on that somehow. Yep. Really big ballroom, leaving your name on here. What about the publication of the unification of science? That would be a big one, Donald. That would be a real big one. You'd be Donald, great president. And you would get amnesty, bro. Think about that. You could open your mouth, you big orange buffoon, right now and tell the truth. But you won't, because you're a bitch. And again, to everybody watching in the intelligence agency, I know you're watching. Hey, guys, right here, you see these numbers? Just put 2 zeros on there like you guys have done. And I have documentation, and a lot of people do, of tens of millions of dollars paid out to like thousands of people just to go away. Nope, you didn't see that? I didn't see shit, man. 2 zeros come on to 1 0. 2 zeros come onto this account. You never hear from me again. Well, I'll still do this content, but you get what I'm saying. And so the Trump is a buffoon. Yep, that's clear. So we have the SpaceX IPO, again, for the trading, the overall 6 months of depreciation. I wouldn't touch this. Again, I want to finish my tea. You guys ponder. Take a minute break and just reflect on how great I am. I hope you had some time to reflect on my greatness. SpaceX IPO. IPOs in general, like the overall dynamic, and again, that's just my experience. I wouldn't even say that it's like a correlation, but that's what I've observed. And so, but SpaceX, the offering, like, again, I don't know how this works because, again, I don't have constitutional rights. So I have a company, you get some generation, you have cash flow, you have a legal entity filed with the state, you have a tax ID number, and now you want to go public. And then you just like go shop it around to your friends, meaning like you get book value, and then some people get other preferred shares. So the process of going public, I have no experience. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I do. But again, we're back to this general conversation of public versus private company. And so I don't know, again, around IPOs in terms of like the owner of a company structuring an IPO, I just zero experience. I guess you just offer your friends a lower price before it goes public. But obviously you want momentum around your company and it to be public for the maximum return, to get the maximum value out of your product, your service, your company, your market share, your business. And so for me, with my extremely novice understanding of what's going to happen behind the scenes before SpaceX pops up on my terminal where I can buy it, to me, there's just going to be a very high premium. So my conjecture would be, I'm not going to play it, would be that, again, a single day of appreciation immediately opens up, bam, and then it just kind of sells off for 6 months. And again, I think it's more likely even for SpaceX because it's tied to Elon Musk. It's going to have a huge premium on it. No real opinion, again, because a lot of companies IPO and it's like their first legal entity, where Elon Musk is such a massive presence elsewhere. It's like, are you really buying SpaceX? Are you buying into another facet of Elon Musk? What are you like? So this is to me, all things said, I'm not going to trade this, and I do like to try to trade IPOs. That's why Gemmy's in my portfolio. But it's just the premium around SpaceX. Again, I would be fading it for the first 6 months after, again, like very literally like the initial day, maybe the initial week. But we'll see. This is definitely something that will definitely come back up and be fun to follow. So we might trade it. I mean, there'll be another trading an IPO. Might as well. But Gemmy is, again, like the 6 month. They IPO'd back in September. I mean, that's what that trade was. But then our final kind of talking point is, again, more consideration on this nowhere to hide sentiment. You know, what is the most stable asset because we live in this liquid environment? When you're talking about actually allocation, where you have money and it's like you want to make the most out of that money and you don't want to lose any money, which I guess is the same kind of consideration. But where do you put money when everything is going down? And so again, it's just like if you have enough to make off of fixed income, off of the bonds, like again, to me, can those things go to zero? I still don't get the dynamic of you saying the interest rate, I'm the person that gives out a loan, it's at 4% interest rate, and then I'm the guy that owns the loan, owns the rights to the debt, and then I say the interest rates now go up or down, and then the market does the opposite. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. And so again, when you're asking, when people, the sentiment of no, like, is there any safe asset or is there a safe haven? Is there a place to hide your money? People are really talking about, okay, I'm actually allocating a substantial amount of money and I have to put it somewhere. And so where do I put it? And people are, again, looking for the most stable thing. And so, frankly, I think that's cash for the indefinite foreseeable future. Cash, again, high yield savings account, short-term treasury bonds, to me is the most stable, which would be the most secure thing to run to. But then again, a lot of the conversation, specifically to money managers, is like they're trying to make 7% instead of 4%, as opposed to, make any money at all. Or again, they're trying to maximize return. And so those are the sentiment pieces that came up for today. That is what I have, and we will check in later. Friday, March 27th, 4:22 p.m. So we just finished up trading for the weekend. Another long week for all the privileged people to go take a nice day off, hang out with the family. Ha ha ha, it's all fun and games. But still don't have constitutional rights over here. Don't have enough discretionary income or friends or a family to do anything. So we'll still be talking about the markets, about the markets on the weekend. Couple finishing thoughts for the week. Like I said, I discussed my overall positioning. That has not changed. I nibbled a little bit more on other things. Making the Jemmy and Joby trade is what I'm going to call it. But just managing two positions from the long side on kind of lower price per share stocks, emerging markets, but just some long positions to manage. Made those positions a little higher to make them meaningful, to make them a something, but still very small. Again, I'm never going to take a big position without constitutional rights. And if I do get constitutional rights, I will not be able to trade unless it's a restricted account or just not my total actual money. But regardless, that's what I did, nibbling. The kind of sentiment that was reflected on some of the previous other guests, after noon or whenever we recorded the first clip. I think that was up until like 12:30, or I think it was 1:30. Regardless, I had a couple other guests where, again, the overall stimulus of this Iran war, I see a bounce back in the overall market, and then some short positions that I think are too high. This CF being the one that I've taken. But regardless, not going to go through that discussion again. Thought that was a pretty good section. For the afternoon, we had some exciting guests. We had the whale, the one and only Chris Christie, coming out of New Jersey. I know him a good amount from all of his anti-cannabis rhetoric, and he's still fat, and so that's pretty exciting stuff. Good to see him, but he was on to talk about the prediction market regulation. We had some more discussion of just about like Kalshi or poly market restricting sports betting, political environment, war, stuff like that. Again, I've covered that as much as I can. I'm for regulation. Again, just I have no new insight. But that was what Chris Christie was back on, and it literally made me laugh. I've not heard that name in quite some time. But he is still fat, so we had to point that out. Him and Joe Kernan, I bet, would be good friends. Actually, to be completely frank, I'd rather hang out with Chris Christie. That dude actually presents. He's fat and he's against cannabis. That's why I didn't like him. But his overall talking and presentation seems like he's actually a reasonable person. But again, all of the politicians are just bottom feeding shit to me. And so, Fat Whale Chris Christie was on. But it was funny because they played the production music. I caught you, Brian Sullivan. Somebody clicked a button and like dun-dun-dun, went off right when Chris was talking. And so I thought that was funny because we should just, every time he starts talking, just play that button. Another thought, so the SpaceX valuation at the open of the public offering for the IPO is rumored or going to be around $1 trillion. So that's what I was talking earlier. You decide to go public. Who do you offer what, when? How do you generate desire for people to buy money before it goes actually IPOs? Just no experience in that environment. But it is genuinely funny. Again, still this attenuation to or appeal to Elon Musk being he's the richest man in the world. No, he's not. I own all of science. Literally, actually, it's very literally right here. You just go boop, 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 boop. Look. There's all of science. It's really right there. It legitimately is. Which I just finished another video, so I got to upload that. But regardless, I bought about $2,000 worth of securities today, and I hedged that by creating infinity wealth. So I'm positioning my portfolio overall pretty well. But seeing Elon Musk again, he is neurodivergent on the downside. He went to the right. He has special syndrome. But it is funny just seeing his behavior. It is not exciting, but the overall valuation for SpaceX seems to be about $1 trillion. I covered that as much as possible. We discuss as much as I have insight to, or my thoughts on it, and nothing else. But one kind of closing thought that, again, I don't know what stimulated it, but how many billionaires do you know? Like, not personally, but how many billionaires can you name? If you're in the banking world, again, probably 10 to 20 would be my guess. I don't know. If you're just an average Joe, maybe you're a sports fan, you can probably just list off owners, and that would probably get you a good start. But my point with the thought of the question was, you can generate substantial, huge market share and still not be famous in any way, shape, or form. So to the Elon Musk, that's kind of where it came from, was huge companies and huge celebrity. And so to me, that just screams premium on premium on premium on premium on premium. Wait for it. Premium and more premium and premium. So my guess is, again, I have no insight to the dynamic, but it will just be not something super I don't know. We'll just see what happens. But it definitely raised the question of, again, like, how much market share can you get without being famous? And demonstrably, it's rather substantial, right? You can definitely name less billionaires than exist. And so, overall, nothing really new past that. Some finishing thoughts for the week. No new talking points, really. And so the one for the overall construction, the one thing I don't have any, if the war continues on longer than I expect. Again, all of the positions are small, but I didn't position anything like if the war continues, again, are trying to play the energy to some sort of long side just doesn't make any sense. So I'm strapped in for I don't know, a month. We'll just see how it develops, but definitely nibbled, certainly on the index fund income ones, Gemmy and Joby. Those are the long stocks that are cheaper. We went over the prospectus of why I'm trading those ones this morning in the previous segment, and that's about it. And so CF short, SanDisk a little longer time horizon than the CF Then we'll just kind of see how next week goes. And so that is my final thoughts for today and this trading week of Friday, March 27th, and it is 4:28 p.m. That is all for now. See you next time.